Hey y'all, welcome back again. So we have to look for an update in the standard format in the metagame now with the Lost Covers of Ixalan, but today's deck list goes back, way back, but not yet really way back to Pareksha All Be One with this strategy of a toxic deck. Literally a toxic because it's called the Bant Toxic Aggro from Game Night MTGO. So again, another MTG Top 8 tournament results submitted. But what interests me is that it was not the only, the usual green and white, but not catered blue because of this kind of setup as compared to the previous and usual deck build of the toxic. But of course, we still have white as its main color to goes with the strategy, and we take a look at our card discussion. We have 17 creatures, 3 enchantments, 19 instants, 22 lands, and 15 sideboard, of course. So basically, I just need to go with adding poison counters through attacking and also taking damage to your opponent's life total. So we're going to go here first with the curve of these 12 1-drops. As you can see here, we have a variety of choices, which is playset of Crawling Chorus, playset of Skrill, and of course Venerated Rat Priest as one of the indirect source of having your opponent get a poison counter to the toxic ability or mechanic. So let's go first with the Chorus. It's just one to cast 1/1 with a toxic Phyrexian Horror creature that when it attacks, just deals combat damage, and your opponent will also get a poison counter. But the only good thing here is that when it dies, however, for combat damage or spot removals, you still get a 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might Artifact creature token with the same ability of toxic. That only drawback is that this creature can block, but nevertheless it won't matter here because you would need to deal damage and do toxic poison counter damage as much as possible. The next up, we have 4 copies of Skrill, Defector Might. So this legendary Phyrexian Might creature goes with this ability that can protect another target creature you control with and of course it would also gain Toxic 1 and Hexproof from that color until end of turn, and it also can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. So its purpose here is not only to protect all of the creatures, but of course, if we win a chance that it can attack for a Toxic 1, it will still do its main role. But of course, you just need to have an untap Skrill at any time that you can also protect your other creatures in your setup. Now for the next 1-drop, which is the Venerated Rat Priest, we have several ways to not only have this one do some poison counter effects, because whenever a creature you control becomes a target of a spell, which means that we have several ways to do this kind of effect, especially the Swirling Mist and also Fading Hope maybe, but at the same time protecting them, but having also the drawback that in case they would your opponent would cast a spot removal, for example, it also have them to get a poison counter. So in a way, Venerated Rat Priest is very efficient in doing some indirect poison counter effects to your opponent by letting them get punished whenever they target a creature you control with their spells. Now for the next 2 drops, which is also very crucial in this deck, is the 3 copies of the Jobon Duelist. So this creature is really having a double strike, which means that it will deal twice the damage. At the same time, it will have your opponent get 2 poison counters instead of 1. So in any way, you would still have this efficient damage advantage sort of in this curve for the 2 drops. Now for the 3 drop, we have 2 copies of Annex Entry. This goes that we would also need a sort of a creature removal. At the same time, you can have also a creature with toxic that goes with the main strategy. So what it does is it can exile target artifact or creature your opponent controls with mana value 3 or less until Annex Entry leaves the battlefield. So with the setup with the creature, we have also several creature source to generate these Phyrexian Might tokens, in which we have 3 copies of Skalds Hive. This can also have aside from generating these 1/1 tokens with Toxic, you can also have that creatures you control have a lifelink, as long as your opponent has 3 or more poison counters. And at the same time, we also have 2 copies of Charge of the Mites, which is giving you the option to Charge of the Might deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker, or you can just plainly produce 2 1/1 colorless protection mat tokens at any time. That's the instant speed basically. Now for the other instance here, as I mentioned earlier, we have several ways to outtempo our opponents, or at the same time use the combo with the Venerated Rat Priest. So we have 3 copies of Fading Hope that can bounce off creatures. You can also have a bonus Cry 1 if its mana value is 3 or less. We have 4 copies of March of Swirling Mist. So this is basically having to face out target creatures. At the same time, can be cost 2 mana less if you exile any number or a number of cards or blue cards as you cast this spell. And at the same time, in the late game, probably if there are instances that you need to target your all creatures by having them face out, for example for a mass removal, you can also have this one as an effect. And at the same time, if there are Rat Priests in your board, you can still have your opponent get poison counters. Now for the other cards, we have also Bring the Ending, 3 copies. This is also the sort of an effective counter spell for this deck, as if your opponent is corrupted, you can have this one as a hard counter. We have also 3 copies of Experimental Augury that can proliferate and also get you the card that you need from the top 3 cards of your library. And then Serum Snare, 4 copies, which is another bounce effect to return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. And if its mana value is 3 or less, you will get to proliferate. Now for the lands, it's just basically still going with the Bant colors. We have several mana fix in the deck, including some Pain lands with Darker Waste, Channel lands of course, Iganju for white, then basic lands and Mirrex. That's 3 copies of Mirrex because it's now be able to produce a mana fix as it enters the battlefield, and also in the late game can create armies of tokens of protection by tokens by just paying 3 and tapping this land. And again, Otawara, Plains, mana fix with Waste or Verge Ticket for green white, Seacrom Coast for blue white, that's 4 copies, and 4 copies of the Seed Core, which can basically have this one to add mana of any color to cast protection creature spells. As you've noticed, we have basically a lot of them are protection type of creatures. And then we have also this ability that target poison creature is +2/+1 until end of turn if your opponent has 3 or more poison counters. So this goes still with the main strategy of having your opponents have a beneficiary or more card advantage as your opponents gets corrupted with 3 or more poison counters. And of course, Miracles as another fix for the grid and blue colors. Now for the sideboard is pretty much basic. As you can see here, playset of Knockout Blow against mono red, because it can deal 4 damage to attacking creature and can cost 2 less if it's targeting those kinds of red creatures. We have Destroy Evil, which goes with dealing with enchantments such as Wedding Announcement, and also kill off Sheoldred or any creature with the toughness 4 or greater. And then 2 copies of Disinfuse Roll against mid-range and control matchups, wherein hard casting big spells can be countered by this one. 3 copies of Negate against maybe for spot removals or any other matchups that uses non-creature spells. Additional Skalds Hive for the mid-range probably. We have several matchups wherein you can need to grind out creatures from them, and so Skalds Hive will be your best option by having this as early as turn 2 as possible, so that you can generate your army of Protection Might artifact creatures. And then additional Annex Entry for your opponents that goes with the creature matchups like mono white humans, soldiers, etc. And then additional copy of Charge of the Mites for also can act also as a creature source and also sort of a spot removal because of having your number of creatures you control deal damage to a target creature or planeswalker. And last but not the least, your mana curve. It's 1.62 surprisingly, but we have 22 lands in the setup. I think 21 or 20 lands would be enough for this kind of deck, but nevertheless, let's not argue with the build. Color distribution, we have still blue and white with a splash of green for only venerated dot priest, and the color producers are basically having with the mana fix of 5 or 5 color, basically, because we could still have seed core to fix your protection creature spells, and also several of these pain lands and check lands to go with fixing the other main colors of blue, white, and green. And last but not least, your only token, the Operation My token. This is the low soul token produced by this deck, which still going with the toxic main strategy. So I guess that's pretty much it for this deck tech. But toxic aggro, if you're still interested to do this kind of variants of the deck for the standard meta game, just go ahead and try this one in your next local game store tournament, FNM, or standard events, and maybe on MTG Online and even in MTG Arena. And I guess that's pretty much it for this one. Thank you for checking out this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you guys on the next one.